All right, this debate starts with a feminist argument that's somehow trying to be pro-equality, anti-gender roles, pro-traditional roles, anti-biology, but also dependent on biology. It's the kind of worldview where every belief cancels out another, and she never notices the collision. Let's just say the mental math isn't mathing.
You're a feminist, but you raised your hand for almost every single one. When it came to men should pay for first dates, you raised your hand. Men should be providers. Men should be providers. Men should open car doors. Men should be chivalrous. Men should observe the sidewalk rule. How do you reconcile being a feminist and your description of this is how we got kind of sidetracked. We weren't really talking about equal rights, but you were making the argument that while societally, in terms of gender expectations, gender norms, there's like negative gender expectations on men, negative gender expectations on women. You yourself seem to perpetuate traditional gender norms in terms of your dating prospects. Mm-hmm. So how do you reconcile being a feminist, being in favor of sort of dismantling gender norms, gender expectations, but on the individual, personal level, you hold men to said traditional gender roles?
Yes. So we do exist in society, and men are the perpetrators in violence against women. So I do need a protector, especially how we condition gender to be. Men are stronger. Again, if you want to go the nature route and biological route, they have higher levels of testosterone, so they can gain more muscle and all of these things. So in a sense, yeah, when we live in reality, and I do need a protector, because of the circumstances, yes, I would like somebody who fits that role personally. But I do think that it is negative to push that when it comes to wanting the outcome of gender liberation on a grand scale. It is negative to push roles like that.
Here's the thing. Her argument falls apart the second you look at it closely. She's saying gender roles are harmful and should be done away with, but she still relies on them for her own safety and comfort. She wants men to protect her, but at the same time, she calls those roles negative for society. It doesn't even make sense. Men are dangerous, but also expected to do all the protective stuff she demands. And the statistics she throws out? She acts like it's all about male violence against women, conveniently ignoring that men are overwhelmingly victims of violence too. So the same men she says are dangerous are also the ones she's depending on. When you really break it down, her ideology doesn't hold up. She wants all the benefits of traditional male responsibility without taking on the responsibilities of traditional female roles. That's literally the heart of her worldview.
Wait a second. You don't need that.
What do you mean?
Why do you need that?
Protection?
Why do you need that? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious if we look at the statistics when it comes to violence between genders.
You want us to believe that you're selecting men based on the fact that they can protect you, not because you find that attractive, but because you just find it to be utilitarian?
I think there might be a little bit of both, sure, that it is attractive.
Why would you be attracted to that?
Yeah, you're going to go like the biological and genetic route with this, and sure.
Yeah, I read. Was it you who wrote the essay? Was it her who wrote the essay?
Oh, did you read my essay?
Brian?
I read it. Yeah, it's her.
I did. I did. Yeah, I did too. It was forwarded over to me. I just want to let you know that you got to redo the last paragraph. There was a bunch of formal names there you didn't capitalize. But that aside,
is it bell hooks? Because they're not meant to be capitalized.
No, there was actual. Yeah, there was.
Oh, real? Okay, that's my bad. Also, I didn't know anyone was reading it. It was just for fun. But thank you. Any other feedback is great. Thank you.
Well, your entire essay revolves around blank slate theory, which I don't even think that you believe. So the idea, well, when you make an appeal, you say that it's somewhat bad or somehow bad or should not happen that men don't show expressive emotion. That seemed to be one of the key points that you were pointing out in your essay. But there's a problem there, which is I think you just kind of fundamentally misunderstand what masculinity and femininity are. And that's what blank slate theory is. It's saying that masculinity and femininity are just social traits which are conditioned by the environment. That's what you believe. But that's not the case. And here's why that's not the case. Masculinity and femininity revolve around the idea of virtues. The way that we assign what is masculine is based along virtues, things like courage, for instance. For women, maybe it would be along the lines of chastity, right? The reason you assign these to men and women is because if there is a lack of one in one sex versus the other, the social conditions of society begin to deteriorate rapidly. So if women aren't chaste, the social conditions of society actually deteriorate far more rapidly than if men aren't chaste. However, if women lost all courage tomorrow, the societal conditions would deteriorate less rapidly than if men lost all courage tomorrow. That's why it's the case that femininity and masculinity must be tied to virtues and always have been. It's not just a matter of the blank slate social conditioning. It's you can't have a society without these very ideas of masculinity and femininity existing to begin with. Therefore, gender needs to actually have an assignment with sex for a good reason.
What Andrew is explaining here is actually very simple once you strip away the ideological language. Masculinity and femininity aren't random social inventions. They're rooted in traits and physical realities that have shaped human societies forever. Courage, risk-taking, physical protection. These aren't just masculine because someone decided they should be. They're masculine because men are biologically built for them. Higher muscle mass, greater upper body strength, higher testosterone, a stronger tolerance for physical risk. These things naturally align men with roles that require confrontation, danger, and responsibility under pressure. On the other hand, the traditional feminine virtues, nurturing, caretaking, emotional investment in stability, align with women's biological role as the sex that carries and cares for children. Society didn't just assign these roles out of nowhere. They emerged because they worked, because they matched what each sex could realistically sustain over long periods of time. This is why trying to make gender fully interchangeable doesn't hold up in reality. It ignores the physical basis for why certain roles exist at all. If men collectively stopped doing the things men do, protecting, building, maintaining order, taking high-risk responsibilities, society would collapse long before we finish debating pronouns. And if you try to force women into those positions on a mass scale, you're asking them to fill roles they aren't physically or biologically optimized for. So when she says these roles are negative on a grand scale, but wants them personally, she's missing the entire point. These roles aren't arbitrary, and they're not oppressive by nature. They're functional. They keep things running. And pretending biology doesn't matter doesn't make it disappear.
Well, I was just going to ask if you think that that means that it should be gender specific. Like, yes, why can't we just hold these values within society?
Well, because I just explained why. If it is the case that men decided to not be courageous anymore tomorrow, then the social ramifications in society would deteriorate so quickly that there would not be a society at all. However, if women stopped having the same courage that men did, let's say for perhaps confronting intruders or storming the battlefield or whatever it is, the social conditions inside of society would deteriorate far less. And so it's actually necessary for the sexes who can actually accommodate these goals and deeds to have these actual traits associated with their sex because they're the only ones who can really accommodate them.
Okay. My take is just that perpetuating those ideas is pretty limiting to the human experience because then you wouldn't have women who feel masculine and go into male-dominant roles, and I think that's just limiting to the human experience.
When she says it's limiting to the human experience, what she really means is, I don't like that reality comes with rules. Everything limits the human experience. Biology, nature, even gravity. We deal with it. But the second gender has limits, the kind that come from real differences and real responsibilities. Suddenly, it's oppressive. She wants total freedom with none of the structure or duty that society actually needs to function. Basically, she wants to ignore biology whenever it's inconvenient and still expects men to do all the heavy lifting. That's not liberation. That's just avoiding responsibility.
So I don't think that...
Yeah, but do you understand why it would be so bad for us to take women and then try to make them masculine by moving them towards roles that they're not even biologically equipped for?
But I'm not suggesting we do that.
Yes, you are.
I'm not suggesting we do that. I'm suggesting that there are people, well, this isn't a suggestion, there are people who exist outside of this gender heteronormative binary with these traits.
Why do you think it's a good idea to take society and the social roles that are inside of society and turn them all upside down to accommodate 0.5% of people?
I'm not
Exactly.
I'm not asking for those roles
Yes,
to
they
be
are.
turned upside down. I'm just
Yes,
saying,
you
why
are.
are we not accepting of women?
Because we have
If you're not actually asking for society to change, then why bring it up as a counterargument in the first place? That's the problem with these feminists. They float radical ideas, imply society should shift to accommodate them, and then backtrack the second consequences are pointed out. It's all benefit and no responsibility.
to accept men in our, I'm sorry, I will never accept a fucking man who has an Adam's apple dressed as a woman, say he's gonna come in my space as a woman and take over my shit. I'm not. You know what? My mother and grandmother burned their bras for women's, and I don't, what the fuck is this waves of feminism? Feminism is 1965, man. Okay? When we, and we have the laws, Title IX,
You sound like a very loud
you're gonna keep
feminist.
fucking men in your spaces. You're gonna keep men in your bathrooms. You're gonna keep men in your spaces, and we're gonna keep women in our spaces, and that's it. I'm sick of this bullshit. Stop it. You know what? All this is liberal fucking propaganda bullshit that we have to accept a man being a woman. Really? Does your little Adam's apple go away when you decide you want to have tits and a fucking pussy getting your fucking dick cut off? No. No. You're still a man, and you always will be. That's it. And you know what? You're not going to come in my rights. You're not going to come in my spaces, and that's it.
Sorry.
You got mental illness, and get help for your mental illness. Enough with this bullshit, this propaganda crap. That's all it is. I've had it, man. I'm 52. Yeah, I know. A lot of shit has changed for a lot of years. But you know what? This crap, no. When it gets down to brass tacks, yeah, I don't need this psycho babble. Okay? No. A man's a man, a woman's a woman, that's it. And no man can have a fucking baby, and that's it, man.
This is where decades of feminism meet the monster they created. The old school feminists fought for legal rights, equal pay, voting, protections under the law. Modern feminism swapped that for emotional self-identification and radical identity politics. And now, suddenly, the very people who shaped the culture are shocked when their ideology grows teeth. You can't spend 50 years telling society that gender is fluid, that roles and boundaries are arbitrary, and then act surprised when men start stepping into the spaces you once reserved for women. That's not a coincidence. That's the logical outcome of the world they built.
Yeah, but that actually makes the best point for the lack of...
I don't care if it makes the best point. That's the common logical point. Okay, we're getting back to common sense. Enough of this bullshit. Okay? Oh, you want to twist the fucking psychological around to make a man be a woman? Really? Can they? Can you?
I don't think he's not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Well, thank you.
We were about to hear his response.
Well,
I'd
thank
love to
you.
hear it. Can we hear it? Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
don't know, considering that I'm one of the largest anti-trans proponents in the fucking United States.
Well, thank you.
Right,
So am I.
I don't know why the fuck you would associate that with me, but okay. So anyway...
Why are you yelling at him?
but-
I'm not yelling
yeah,
at him. I'm sticking my head in the microphone is what I'm
After
doing.
you've read my essay, I think we can just both agree
All of a sudden,
that
I'm
we
yelling
have,
now.
that we have fundamental
I mean,
differences
you were yelling. I just, like, I don't care if you want to...
I put my mouth in the microphone, just like Brian said. Yeah, put your mouth in the microphone.
So yeah, back to this. She makes one of the most valid points that she makes is the idea of reproduction, right? It's like only one sex can reproduce and has control over reproduction. That's women. You agree that that's true? Since that's the one role that they can do that men can't do, you would think that you would want to socially be promoting reproduction, unless you were an anti-natalist and you didn't want reproduction.
It's
And it is
not
the case
that
that most feminists I've talked to are very much anti-natalist. It's baked into feminism itself.
Wow, talk about chaos. But even through all the screaming, Andrew cuts back to the actual point. Reproduction is biologically sex-specific, and it's the one area men can't control. Yet most of the feminist commentary around it seems to ignore that reality, leaning instead into ideology. This is the perfect end cap for the debate. All the noise, all the theatrics, but the facts don't change. Biology matters. Society functions on real differences. Ideology can scream, but it can't override that. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I want to know what you think about this mess.